American business structure is based on really two different issues. The first issue is who has money invested, right, in the corporation or small business, proprietorship, whatever. And the second issue is liability. Who can be sued and for how much? So obviously the smallest kind of business is a single person, right? And that's usually called a sole proprietorship. And that's one guy here, all by himself, and he has total liability. That means that whatever he does in his business, all his assets are liable. His house, his building that he works in, his bank account, whether it's the business bank account or his regular bank account. This is the way a lot of small businesses get started. And after that, you've got partnership. And this is the way historically the first banks were run. A lot of law firms are still run this way. And here you've got multiple people, right? At least two, maybe some more. And again, they got total liability. Right, so this is a good way to have just a few people, but you have a lot of extra risk involved. On the other end of the spectrum, you have a corporation, right? Which we all know is a whole lot of people who have shares, or maybe it's just a few people who have shares. If it's only divided up and they're not traded publicly, you can either publicly trade the shares, or they can just be owned by a few people. So here you're going to have just, you know, like a sea of people that own shares. But the good thing about a corporation is the liability of the people who own shares is limited to the amount they have in the shares. So there's limited liability. And so that's a big bonus. So what the Germans realized a number of years ago is they want to have this sort of governing structure by the people who are invested, and they also want to have the limited liability aspect. And so they created something, in German it's Geschäft mit bestimmter Haftung, GmbH, but in the US we've copied it and we call it LLC, which is a limited liability corporation. And in one of those you can have the same kind of partnership or sole proprietorship investment structure, but you get all the limitations of the liability. That is, the people who have invested in the business are liable only up to the amount that they've invested. And so it's kind of a safer way to operate. You'll see a lot of smaller to medium-sized businesses using this corporate structure instead of these older ones to avoid the liability. Hope you enjoyed.